ये निशान क्या हो रहा है इस पे देखो Good afternoon to all the exceptionally reputed resource persons and the esteemed participants on the 5th day of the FDP. I welcome you all on the behalf of the SPCGCA fraternity. Faculty development programs offer us new methods to keep our classrooms and curriculum highly knowledgeable. They also provide access to new styles of teaching. Teachers become fully equipped with the skills by joining such teachers training programs and are able to effectively transfer their message to the students. Our resource persons for today are Dr. Rashri Ranawat, Assistant Professor, Jain Naran Vyas University, Jodhpur; Dr. Divya Joshi, Associate Professor, Government Dungur College, Bikaner; and Dr. Pardeep Jaggi, Associate Professor, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Government College, Sri Ganganagar. This FDP offers a collaborative learning environment regardless of location, and our first resource person for the day is Dr. Rashri Ranawat. The title of her presentation is The Complexities of Learning and Teaching in the New Emerging Worlds. We teachers work in increasingly complex and diverse settings, and we have very different changing professional learning needs. These learning needs may be very specific to the teachers or to the context in which they work. Dr. Ranawat has a teaching experience of more than 15 years and is at present associated with the Department of English, JNBU, Jodhpur. She has edited 3 books: Literature, Nation, Identity and Culture, History Reconstructed Through Literature, and 1 book on LGBTQ. A prolific reader and writer, she has also published several papers in journals of national and international repute. She is a research supervisor and has guided scholars on subjects like Afghanistan's women writers, post-human studies, crime fiction, and fantasy literature, to name a few. She has also edited a journal entitled Studies in English. Before I invite Madam for her lecture, a few reminders need to be mentioned. Participants, kindly note that since random attendance is being taken, so stay connected in all the sessions. Filling of feedback form is necessary. Please fill it timely. Following participants will prepare the report for today's sessions: Dr. Shivesh Sharma, Dr. Savita Baradia, and Dr. Shashikant Acharya. Queries and observation, if any, may be posted in the chat box. I now invite Madam to share her presentation. Over to Rashri Ranawat, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Sanjana ma'am. A very good afternoon to one and all present here. The patron, Dr. Pratibha Yadav, Dr. Sunita Pachauri, coordinator, Dr. Manju Sharma.
Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
I have unmuted, ma'am.
Rashri, ma'am.
Ma'am, I have unmuted myself.
Kindly unmute yourself.
Ma'am, I have unmuted myself. Am you not able to hear me? Now you are able to hear me? Can you hear me now, ma'am?
We are able to hear you, ma'am.
Yeah, that am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you so much. So a very good afternoon to one and all present here. The patron, Dr. Pratibha Yadav, Dr. Sunita Pachori, coordinator, Dr. Manju Sharma, convener, Dr. Sanjana Sharma, co-convener, Mrs. Swati, organizing secretary, Mrs. Mahima God, co-organizing secretary, Ms. Sarita Chavaria. Thank you all for inviting me to this 7 days faculty development program on trends and approaches in the teaching and learning of English language and literature, and for giving me this opportunity to express my views, to share my views. And I also congratulate the entire team for pulling it off so well, because I can understand very well that it is a real tough job to coordinate with the resource persons for 7 days and to manage it. So congratulations, because tomorrow is your valedictory. So having said that, I would like to share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes,
It is visible, ma'am.
Visible.
Thank you. Thank you. So the topic of my session is complexities of learning and teaching in the new emerging world. There's nothing new that I'm going to tell you about it. We already know, just a revision of what we already know. When I talk about complexities, the entire session is divided into two parts. I will be talking about two complexities. The first part deals with complexities of teaching literature in class, and the second part deals with how we need to cope up with today's situations. As teachers, we need to cope up, and what are we giving our students, and what we need to give our students. So coming to the first part of my session, that is complexities of teaching literature. Now, the first thing is, why is it difficult to teach literature? Because literature is something which is nebulous. It is foggy. It is not very tangible like other subjects. Whoever teaches maybe history, political science, or geography, they are stating facts. You teach, I teach, anybody teach those subjects, and it will be the same. But when it comes to literature, it becomes difficult. Why it becomes difficult? As I said, that it is something which depicts life. Literature, as W.H. Hudson said, that literature is the vital men have been in life, what they have experienced of it, what they have thought and felt about, those aspects of it which have the most immediate and enduring interest of us. In simple words, it is reflecting life. It is reflecting society. And life in itself is so complex. And that is why there are complexities when we are teaching literature. Every teacher has its own way to establish a text or a poet. I may have my own way of establishing Whitman, you may have your own way. Everybody have their own way, everybody have their own interpretation of a certain text, of a certain writer or poet. And that makes it so complex. It is far more challenging than any other subject, because it is exploration. It is a voyage to the unknown world. Every time we read, and every time something new, some new interpretation comes right in front of us. And this is what makes literature so complicated. But at the very same time, this is the romance of teaching literature. This is the charm of teaching literature, because there are so many, it is so multidimensional, it is so polyphonic, that you cannot have single approach of teaching. Every new genre puts in front of us a new set of challenges. You cannot just streamline and set rules for teaching literature. It is very, very important for us to put or to act in. For example, if you're teaching daffodils, the students should feel daffodils there. For example, if you're teaching Great Expectations, Miss Havisham should be right in front of the students. That old cake should be right in front of the students. And then again, quoting from Great Expectations, when one of the characters, Stella, when she opens the gate of Setter's house, for all those who have already read Great Expectations, when she opens the gate of Setter's house for the very first time for the protagonist Pip, she's opening the gate. It symbolizes as if she's opening the gate for Pip for an entirely new world to enter. And Pip enters into that world, and he wants to stay in that world, and he works hard, and he wants to be part of that new world. So this is how it is symbolic that she opens the gate. This symbol may be different for somebody else. This symbol may be different for me. So this is what gives literature its complexities. Just as Tennyson said that each arc is the gateway to new knowledge. So each interpretation, each new class, each new teacher is a new gateway, is a new way for the students. It gives students a new knowledge, a new interpretation of that very text. And that is what makes literature so very difficult or so very complicated. But again, I would like to say that that does not repulse us from teaching literature. Those complexities attract us. It makes us to teach literature. As I said, that it mirrors, literature is a mirror which reflects light in its totality. The writing reflects society and culture, and it serves as a means of social control as well as change. Now, this is very, very important. Every text has a life. Every text has an energy. It is up to the teachers to get across to the students the life, that energy, that what exists talking about. And that is the biggest challenge. That is the biggest complexity that is in front of the teachers when they are teaching literature. Now, to endorse my point, to put forth my point, I would like to give two examples of two writers. The first example that I've been quoting is of Manto, Sadat Hasan Manto, who went to Lahore after partition. And what he wrote was, if you don't know the circumstances of your age, then read my short stories. If you do not tolerate these, it means this era is not able to be tolerated. If you find anything indecent, these are the indecencies of your time. There is no error in my writing, and the error which are attributed to my name is the error of the system. I do not like chaos. I don't want to emotionalize the people and their thoughts. How I uncover the civilization and society, which is already naked, and I don't want to cover it. So this is what the writers are doing. This is what we need to put forth when we are teaching it to the students. And again, I give an example of Manto. Manto has been writing on Manto wrote on partition. A lot of writings is on partition, and he has put forth in very heart-wrenching stories about partition. One of those stories, I'll just take a small short story, which is Open It, Holdo in Hindi, and it is Open It in English, which is a masterpiece which is created by Manto, and it talks about just two important characters. There are just two important characters in the story, that is Sirajuddin and his 17 years old daughter Sakina. She is missing from the railway station, and the story is after partition, when there was recovery of the abducted women. So Sirajuddin was in search of his daughter, and he was trying very hard to find his daughter, but all his efforts were in vain. So he sort of requested some self-appointed volunteers to find out his daughter, and the volunteers always said, yes, we will do it, yes, we will do it. And they said that, yes, we are finding it. And 15-20 days passed by, and then one day Sakina was carried to the hospital camp from the nearby railway track. She was unconscious. She was almost like a dead body. When she was taken to the hospital, the father also comes there, and it looks as if she doesn't have any life. And the doctor enters. The doctor tells the nurse, open it, where he meant to open the window which was closed. And the girl, who was almost lifeless, she had no life. It was looking as if she was almost dead. Her hands moved, and she opened the cord of her salwar. She moved, her hands moved, and she opened the cord of salwar, because that open it meant only for her was opening of salwar, because she has been repeatedly raped. And the father was so happy with joy that my daughter is alive. And the doctor was shocked seeing that girl. Now, who else? Any amount of statistical data, any amount of social documents, any amount of history books will not give you the slice of partition, will not give you the real picture of partition, which the writers like Manto can give you. And that is what makes literature so complicated to teach in class, because we need to bring back that thing in class. We need to give that what Manto really meant in class. Similarly, the second example that I would like to quote is about Dickens. We all know the way he used to write. He was the most important social commentator who used fiction effectively to criticize economic, social, and moral abuses in that very time of Victorian era. And Dickens showed compassion and empathy towards the vulnerable and disadvantaged segments of English society. His Oliver Twist, his Christmas Carol, every hard times, all the work that he has done that reflect the Victorian society of that particular moment. In fact, Charles Dickens had the capacity to transform life into literature. And then what we have to do is, again, transform literature into life when we are teaching it in the class. So I can give you a number of examples, like if you teach Chaucer, if you take example of Jane Austen, such a beautiful example. When you're teaching Pride and Prejudice, this is what makes literature so complicated, but at the very same time, it adds charm to teaching literature. And we have a very important job to teach, because we have to bring back that life into class. We have to inculcate that taste for the subject in class. We need to develop that faculty of appreciation. We've been giving questions, right? Critical appreciation, right? Of this text or this poem, whatever it is. But we need to first develop that appreciation for that piece of literature by the way we teach. So with this is one of the examples from Pickwick, where Charles Dickens brings out the disadvantages, the problems of Industrial Revolution, what he has been seeing there, the blackening, the chimneys obscuring everything around, the glare of distant light. So beautifully he describes each and every aspect of Victorian society during those times. So the postmodern, as we all know, that the postmodern deconstructive canons, we start no one uniform point of view can be concluding, and thereby rural interpretations and perspectives. And that is why I said literature is so multidimensional. There can be a lot of interpretations, even of one simple text when we are teaching it for the first time, and when we teach it again for the second or third or fourth time. Every time we read, there are different interpretations. Something new comes out, something new emerges out, and that is the beauty of literature. There is always something unsaid, there is always something unrevealed, and if everything will be revealed, then that day maybe literature comes to an end. So we need to encourage students to see these moments in their reading, and they should be confused. They should be confused as gateways rather than barriers to understanding, so that students might approach literature as literary scholars do, finding such work valuable, liberating, pleasurable, and intellectually fulfilling. So the joy of teaching literature in the joy of teaching, the final chapter in Alan Showalter's Teaching Literature, which is another very, very important text. It begins with Laura Nashin's affirmation that the last class of a semester should break out of the frame, direct attention to the next logical question, and most of all, leave the students not in panic, but in perplexity, to inspire the rebirth of intellectual spirit that one hopes to encourage the courtship of answers, probing, reframing of complexities, difficulty, and confusions as pleasurable gateways or joyful invitations to meaning, rather than frustration and talent. So this is again a very important text, Teaching Literature by Alan Showalter, which every literature teacher should read. And she has, in this particular text, she has given about the joys of teaching literature and how different genres can be taught, like poetry, fiction, drama. She has dealt with it individually. So after saying this, the first portion of my session, that is the complexities of teaching literature, is over, and I come to my second portion of the session, where in the first portion I was just trying to tell you that yes, there are complexities to teach literature. And why there are complexities? Because it is reflecting life, which in itself is full of complexities, but then that adds to the charm, to the romance of teaching literature. Now, the second portion is again a very important part of, it deals with the education system, and it's a very important part which needs to be addressed at this very point of time. We all know that at the present time, all over the world, the higher education institutions are facing the existential predicament or hurdles or problems. I mean, they've been asked to redefine their role. They've been asked, what is your utility? Because you're not producing, or you're not giving the students what they really want. So why taxpayers' money should be spent on them? So this is a very big question mark on all higher education institutions. And And that is why this is the time when there are plethoras of theories, there are plethoras of principles and approaches and trends of teaching and learning. But this is a time when we have to fall back to the wisdom of scholars like Rabindranath Tagore or Aurobindo or S. Radhakrishnan or Krishnamurti, who was a very good, who was a renowned philosopher. And he says, because of these present situations, he says that what is necessary today is total mutation, a total transformation of the students, of the teachers, as well as of the education system, of the whole structure and nature of the brain and of the mind also, because the crisis is so vast, so complex, not only in the human world, in the world of daily living. It demands a new mind, a new heart, and thereby there is a need of a total transformation to meet this new, to combat this vast and so complicated situation. We need a total transformation, and it needs a new mind and a new heart. Because we all know that a nation is esteemed not by its territory or population or commerce, but by the value it has given to the world and the value that it has given it to its society, to its, and how society it is to the students. So that brings me to the importance of higher education institutions, which are like shelters and safe homes, and they are sort of a social and cultural refuge. They not only create knowledge, they not only impart knowledge, they disseminate knowledge. And when a student reach to these, when they enters the portals, when they enters the corridors of higher education institutions, maybe government colleges or maybe universities, they become breathing space away from the suffocating life of their small villages or small towns, which have boundaries of community and caste norms. So these campuses, they become the breathing space for these students. We have a lot of challenges in front of us. I won't talk about the challenges. My point is, even though we have these challenges in our higher education of infrastructure and of curriculum and of money and globalization and privatization, but in spite of all this, as a teacher, we need to teach students. We need to have a balanced approach towards teaching students and making them not exactly to fit into the society, but even to face the problems, the hurdles, even if there is a need to change the society, we have to make them aware of this. And as literature teachers, it becomes all the more important for us to make these students, and the responsibility is more on us to make these students aware of the present situation, and to have certain set of values so that they can stand upright against the evil also, and the values of honesty, the values of integrity be imbibed in them, thus making them a very strong citizen, and to build the very characterization. Because education in the real sense of the word, not to transmit from teachers to the students some information about mathematics or history, but to develop that critical, which I said in my previous slides also, that it is very important to develop that extraordinary critical mind, that extraordinary, because these higher institutions are places where there are churning of ideas. When we teach literature, we give them that space, that open space. We give them that place to think, to come out with new ideas, to think about the problems, to think about the solutions. And this is the role of education, where we as a teacher have to bring out the best of the living in his nature. It helps the student develop all facets of his personality. And this is another very important aspect, because as a teacher, we need to bring out the best in the student. Now, as literary teachers, scholars, we have a responsibility to teach in ways that cultivate and clarify the values and practices of our discipline, as well as how they connect to its larger goals. As I said, that every text has a life, every text has an energy. So we need to give exactly what it means, because it is again, one of the most important points of literature is that in literature, it is reading between the lines also. There are multiple, as I said, there are multiple interpretations. So it is very, very important for us to give our students, give our pupils what exactly the particular text means, or what exactly will be the effect, or what exactly the text will help understand the present scenario. I won't go into the details of the role of the educator, because in today's, when we talk about education system, this is the role of the educator. The teacher does not only have to know the subject, but also the student, the society, and the philosophy of education, because it is the teachers who are molding and fashioning the students of the society. So teachers has always been and the role models for the children, and they should be in such a way that they enable them to reach higher and higher stages of development. Just by seeing them, the children are so inspired. The moment a teacher enters the class, we don't even understand, we don't even realize that how inspire and how much we influence the students. The way we talk, the paralinguistic activities, the way we talk, the way we walk, everything inspires the students, because we've been visiting so many places in our life, banks, railway stations, bus stops, but we don't remember everyone. But we do remember one or the other teacher who has taught us in our lifetime, because teachers are that distinct categories. So that is how they influence and they inspire. 5-7 years down, we whenever we go to any place, there are students who come out and say, oh ma'am, you are here, you've taught me in this class, or you've taught me in this class. So we don't even know how do we inspire and influence and touch so many lives. Now, this is very, very important for us. Again, I will quote Krishnamurti here, J. Krishnamurti. And this is one of the approaches, this is one of the, we should teach in class, when he says that there's a departure in Krishnamurti's teaching from the traditional approach of the relationship between the teacher and the taught, the guru and the shishya. Earlier, it was guru and the shishya. The traditional approach is basically hierarchical. There is the teacher who knows everything, and the student who does not know and has to be taught. This was the initial, the traditional approach that of the Guru Shishya. But in present times, what is happening in the present time, the teacher function at the same level. Now, this needs to be understood, that it functions on the same level, communicating through questions and counter questioning till the depths of the problem are exposed and understanding is revealed, illuminating the mind of both. So mind of both. So both, it is a learning process for both, for the teacher as well as the students. So there are questions and there are counter questions. I mean, we cannot discourage a student who's asking a question. He should be encouraged to ask questions. And this is how then he, in fact, if we can start a text with a question and we wait for the responses. So this is a new approach. This is a new trend which needs to be followed in our classroom patterns, where there is a level, the same level where teacher and student is standing and both are communicating to each other. And it is this exercise is illuminating for both. Rather than being a monologue, it should be a dialogue between a teacher and a student that will illuminate minds of both. Now, why are we talking about the trends and approaches these days? What really has made the difference? What is the need to speak about all this? The need to speak about all this is classroom todays are empty and students are going to coaching institutes, because that promise them jobs and success in competitive examinations and then a pathway to jobs and happy life ever after. And this very fact has defeated the very aim of education. They go to coaching centers, will become RAS and IAS, but where are the values? Where is the value system? Where are the values that were supposed to be imbibed in them? So that is why there is a need, why we are thinking, why there is a question mark on the very existence of higher education institutions. Because we are not giving them what they deserve. They want that students should come to our classes. We want that they should be. We need to develop that interest in students, that he comes to the college, he comes to the universities to learn. Now, I'll again go back to Rabindranath Tagore's two beautiful short stories. I still have, I guess, 5 to 10 minutes, I hope. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, do I have time with me? Well, anyways.
Yes, ma'am, you have time.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll go back to two beautiful short stories and one poem of Rabindranath Tagore to prove my point. As I said, that in this plethora of theories and principles, we need to go back to the teachings of scholars like Rabindranath Tagore. See, the first story, The Parrot's Training. a very, in fact, it is a wonderful story, and all those who haven't read must read it. So it is a beautiful story which tells you, shows the fatal consequences of today's education system. So parrot is a bird which can fly, which can sing, but it cannot read the scriptures. So king ordered that no, even he should be educated. So he called one of his relatives, his nephew, and he asked that make arrangements for this parrot to be trained, to be educated. So the nephew, he meets Pandit, and he discussed with him that how the parrot needs to be educated. And then arrangements are made for the for parrot's education. The first arrangement, what was done was a gold cage is made, because it was thought that because he's residing in the nest, or he's there in the trees, that is the biggest barrier of his teaching. He cannot learn because he is in there.